Hey, I'm Kate Seymour of Kate Seymour Photography. I am a photographer of all things love, everything from elopements and weddings to families and maternity sessions. Um, and yeah, we just had an awesome call.
Yeah, it was fun chatting all things horses, love, balancing being rooted in one place and the urge to roam. And I just love being in your world. So I'm hyped that we carved out time for this.
Well, you're very complimentary, and thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Heck yeah. Well, let's get into it. Kate, I'm so excited we're doing this because we just wrapped up your brand and website launch, and it's been such a pivotal time for you and me just getting fully immersed in your world. So this feels like a fun conversation to cap it all off and celebrate.
I know, it's really perfect timing. That project was so much fun, and I'm so pleased with how it came out. And I mean, this could be a whole nother show about talking about how wonderful you are, um, and your talents. Because yeah, I'm so psyched on my website. You did a wonderful job.
Heck yeah, that's what we like to hear.
Yeah.
Well, it's also been fun because you and I have just so many parallels in our personal lives, like having worked in the same mountains in Wyoming at different times.
I know, it's wild.
Yeah,
It
so
really is such a small world.
yeah, it's crazy. And so we were both in the Bighorns in Wyoming, and I was on a guest ranch doing backcountry horse guiding on the southwest side. And then you were on the other side of the mountains, right?
Yeah, I
And so
think.
what tell me about your connection there again because you had gone there with your family and then later on in life you'd ended up there spending a lot of time working.
Yeah. So I first went out there when I was 8, maybe, on like a summer family trip, went and spent a week on a dude ranch. And then we went back, I think 2 other summers with the family. Um, and before that though, my dad had gone as a kid. So like there's a lot of family history between this ranch, and yeah, my family. Um, so yeah, when I grew up wanting to be a little cowgirl. So spending a week on a ranch for me was just a dream. And I definitely, I think I took to it, my 8-year-old memory. I was so little then. I don't remember the details of it, but obviously it, struck a chord in my heart because when I grew up, I was like, I'm going to work on that ranch and go back, and just saw myself spending a lot of time there. And I did. So, yeah.
That's so cool to have had that connection there with your family and your younger self and then get to go back and experience that later on. Like
Yeah.
I would have died to have had summers on a ranch out west, but I guess now that I say it I kind of did because I don't remember if we've talked about this before, but there's a really cool horsemanship camp for girls in New Hampshire. It's in
Oh.
yeah, nice little plug for Roads End Farm. It's in it's in Chesterfield and it's on 300 acres or so and they have about 70 horses at a time and about I think like twice as many girls that go and so you'll kind of get paired up with someone and switch horses every other day, but it's really just to like immerse yourself in ranch farm life and you do a lot of caring for the horses. It's all centered on horses with then like a little bit of fun stuff too, like lake time.
Yeah.
But the whole point of it is to just go all in on the horse world for 2 weeks. And so I grew up going there, and every Sunday the horses would get time off and they'd be in their Sunday vacation pasture. And then
Hmm.
on Monday mornings, it was like a spiritual experience because they would run the horses from Wheelocks, the Sunday pasture, into like the Monday work pasture where we'd catch them, saddle for the day and whatnot. And all the girls would go out and just be by the fence, like our coats drawn against the cold, like our breath caught in our chest as the herd would run by. And it was the coolest experience to have as a kid who wasn't, doesn't come from a horsey family, but to have that, it was just like my version of church and something that I guess shaped a lot about my life now, getting to have that so young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's reminding me of just my time at the ranch, mornings and evenings when they bring the herds in or send them out. And there's a fenced lane that they come in on to come into the corral. And um when you see like the whole herd either, trotting or loping by, um it's pretty magical.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to describe until you experience it for yourself, I think. Like
Yeah.
before you feel their hooves hitting the earth and like feeling that in your body and just the energy of them running by. It's something else whether you like horses or not. It's
Yeah.
hard to deny.
So this is kind of a fun connection between ranch and what I do for work. But the ranch, I don't think they do it anymore, but they would often hold weddings like right when they open in the beginning of the year and then at the end of the year. They would never do it in the middle of the season just because I think booking wise with guests was
Mm.
probably a headache. But when a couple gets married there, they have like a wedding lawn that the back side of it is the lane that the horses come in and out of. And so they
Yes.
keep the horses in the corral and like right after they say I do, there's, one of the cowboys up on the hill with binoculars like watching the ceremony happen. And when they kiss, he sends the signal to the wranglers to open the gate. So you have this kiss, and then right as everyone's like, whoa, you got married. They send the horses by just at like full gallop, just pushing them out to pasture. And it's so cool. So cool.
I have chills. I need to do that.
I'm got goosebumps right now.
What a cool idea.
It's really neat.
Is it on your bucket list at all to photograph an elopement or an intimate wedding there?
Yes, 100%.
What's the
100%.
name of the ranch?
The HF bar.
Okay, everybody go look it up.
Yep,
Sounds
everybody look it up.
magical.
It's a wonderful place. Hire a photographer who knows all the nooks and crannies of the property that can show you around.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's a fun idea.
It's so cool.
What's drawn you to this feeling of more intimate ceremonies and elopements versus, the folks who want to do something really big?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to kind of the beginning when I first dove into wedding. Well, first of all, I was nervous to dive into weddings just because there's so much pressure to like capture this big day. Um, the first wedding I did actually was an intimate backyard wedding because it was COVID. So they went from having a like almost 200 person guest list to 30 people or something. And it was amazing. I just feel like it's deeper connection. Um, because you're not like the couple is not running around trying to say hi to everybody and um yeah, there's just more intention um in a smaller day, I feel like, than the big traditional wedding. I mean, the big ones are still tons of fun and I still photograph those, but um yeah, it's the connection that really um comes out a lot more.
I mean, that's what I'm in it for too. So
Yeah.
I totally
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah. And
Did
also, I mean, for me, I think when I first heard about like adventure elopements, I was like, oh my God, people do that? Like that is my jam. Um, because I've done like, yeah, outdoor guiding and love being outside hiking or biking or, canoeing, doing any sort of fun activity in the outdoors and hearing that people really enjoy blending that into a wedding day. I was like, oh, that's what I'm gonna do.
heck yeah.
So those days are really fun because they're so unique. Um, a larger traditional wedding day definitely follows a set rhythm. Like there's like a system for bigger traditional weddings that like you really want to stick to because it just makes a really busy day go pretty seamlessly. Um, but when it's just the couple on an elopement, it can go however you want it to, which is really exciting.
Oh yeah. And it seems like, I mean, looking at your portfolio we created together on kateseymour.com, there's like pizza dates and hot air balloons and walking your dog down the aisle and
Oh,
horses and yeah, the hikes and the couple canoeing was
yeah,
really cool. Yeah, I like seeing
yeah,
that too because I hadn't seen someone else doing that, and your photos really felt like a moment in time there. It just felt so special and intimate. Like for me, not even knowing the couple, like that seemed like a really special day.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's, talking about getting chills. Like, yeah, when a couple reaches out to me saying especially when they already have a vision and they know exactly, what they want to do on their day, something that is uniquely them, um, and that's what they choose to do on their wedding day. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, like we're doing it.
Heck
Um,
yeah.
it's just, yeah, it's pretty special.
And then you also obviously help people figure out what they want to do too if they don't have a solid idea. Like I know you have all those resources on
Yeah.
eloping in Vermont and balancing the intimate wedding, bringing your family in.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I always give my couples like a whole planning guide, and part of that is kind of a like motivation to sit down and have like a couple date nights together and like have this be the focus. I list off a ton of kind of like brainstorming questions, um, to think outside the box and really think about like if you're not following any wedding rules, or you don't have mom or dad like over your shoulder saying what you should be doing or shouldn't be doing, who you should or shouldn't be inviting and all of that stuff. Like what what could your wedding day really look like? Or how would you want it to go if you really did throw that rule book out the window? Because really anything is possible. So I'm like, dream big. Let's let's put those big dreams like down on paper and let's make it work. Um, it's yeah, it's lots of fun.
Tell me about what you're doing with your newsletter.
So yeah, I also just started a newsletter. I have no idea what I'm doing with it, but it's a really fun adventure for me to be on. So yeah, it's the plan is to once a month just send out kind of a little update with what's been going on personally in my life, with motherhood, with travels, with the business side of things, and then giving a bunch of inspiration for people, whether it's family sessions or planning an elopement or wedding. Um, just, yeah, kind of helping people capture some special life moments. So I do have on my website that lovely Amy put together for me. Um, I do have two different guides right now. I'll be adding more along the way, but one is for prepping for a family session to make sure that it goes smoothly and you get the photos that you're really wanting to get. And the other is a how to elope guide. So kind of, yeah, stripping everything down and um, from a traditional wedding and giving some inspiration on how to create a really fun, adventurous, unique wedding day.
Heck yeah. And if people just go to the homepage and they scroll down, they're going to get a little pop up and see that and they can pick the
Exactly.
guide that's relevant to them.
Yeah.
Cool. And tell me the name of the newsletter again.
I almost forgot it. It's that new. I almost forgot it. It's called the Field Journal.
Yes. Love. Love. So good.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Heck yeah. Well, I'm already subscribed, so can't wait.
See you out there.
And yeah, that is what we like to hear, bringing more of ourselves and more of what we really want into like days like this.
Yeah.
How do you balance, because I know obviously you're, a third party to these kinds of things, right? But you're really intimately involved with the couple and planning and I know like going about engagements sometimes and then also their ceremony. How do you balance wanting to capture certain moments with letting certain moments just unfold and being there as they happen? Versus that those like big days where there's the schedule and you're doing the family and now you're doing the couple and now the bridal party.
Um, yeah, I mean on those smaller wedding days, they just unfold a lot slower. So like I feel like there's naturally that time built in to just like sit and be with it. And there's also not all that commotion where like, on a traditional wedding day, the bride and groom might have, or the couple might have, a little bit of downtime, but there's 150 other people around, and I'm then like turning around and doing candids of guests. Um, on those smaller days, it's actually pretty easy to take that moment and like find pause for myself as well, um, which is really nice. But it's also been a learning process because on the back end, when I'm then sitting at my computer and uploading 7,000 photos, I'm like, I really didn't need to have my camera at this particular moment. I could like, it would have been okay for me not to take some of those photos and to like
Mm.
just be more in the moment. Um, so yeah, a learning process.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a balancing act, and that there's like a lot more built in relaxation and presence in that kind of day.
Mhm.
But it seemed like I think there was a couple working through your portfolio where they had done, I think, a Vermont elopement or intimate ceremony, and then they also did something bigger in Colorado.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it when people do that. Because I know for me and a lot of people, like choosing to elope, I think the hardest part about that is not being able to celebrate with friends or family. Um, but they still want that experience, that adventure on their day. So it's like, how do you get both? It's like, well, you do both. Like there's no one saying that you can't do both. So a lot of times people will have that fun elopement experience, usually before, but it could also be afterwards. Um, and then gather friends and family for something a little bit more traditional. Um, yeah, these guys did. They came out from Texas. They came to Vermont and had this awesome half day elopement here and explored some rivers and waterfalls and fields and beautiful mountain views. They brought their little dog with them. So yeah, we had a awesome time here in Vermont. And then I think it was a month later, gathered everybody. They spend a lot of time in Telluride. So um, we then had this like super elegant but intimate ceremony and dinner um, in Telluride.
That's so cool. That's definitely what I'm leaning towards, when
Yeah,
that day comes, is
yeah,
something more intimate and just for us. And then, yeah, like making sure it is still a big celebration. Maybe not a big production, but like I definitely want to party with the
yeah.
people I love and to
Mhm.
think about the food that I want to share with them and all these things. Like there's so much love in creating an experience to celebrate a moment in time with the people you love.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll probably still be pulling my hair out, but I'm going to
It's
do my
still a lot
best.
to plan. I mean, it's still a lot to plan and to gather all the details and I mean, you are then like you're hosting, right? Um, but it's worth it. It's tons of fun, especially if you get out on the dance floor.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. We both like to like
I know.
dance, but me
Here
swing
you might,
dance and you riff, you do it all.
oh, I don't know about that. I
I've
just
seen
don't
you on
have anybody
Instagram.
to swing dance with when I post on social media.
That's fair.
Yeah. I do work solo, so maybe I need to bring on an assistant that knows how to swing dance.
There's a thought.
Credentials.
Yeah, job description.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, if you had a weekend totally to yourself and there were no shoots, like no travel planned for everyone else,
Mhm.
what would you be up to? Would you be dancing?
I would definitely try to. Depends on where I am, I guess. Um, I'd be outside. I'd probably I'm a morning person, so I get up, get the coffee, and then, I don't know, my mountain biking or going for a hike, um, with family and the dogs. Any time spent outside with family and dogs is high on my list. Um, yeah, so the last couple summers I've been kicking myself because I have a long list of interests and I often get stuck with the what is it paralysis by analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm like, oh, do I want to go fishing or do I want to go mountain biking or do I want to go hiking or do I want to do something a little like more low key, paddle boarding or canoeing or and then I spend too much time thinking about it that I'm like, oh, I don't have time anymore. So I guess I'll just walk the dogs up the road and get back to work. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, if I had a whole weekend, um, yeah, I'd fly out to Wyoming and go horseback riding and dancing.
See you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, last winter, this was the first winter I had horses with me. Like, because usually I ride, for ranches or for people in the summer, and that's when I have access to horses. But it was the first time where I had someone's horse at my house, full winter access. And I did the least amount of snowboarding I think I've ever done. I went 3 days, no, 4 days, like one backcountry day and 3 resort days. And then the rest of the time was spent with the horse, like learning skijoring or just
Yeah.
getting out on trails as much as I could with him. But I just like knew I had to just pick something because I was also like, okay, I got to get this gear ready. I got to dedicate this time. I got to do this travel. And it all adds up. And I like to be fully in something. So I feel that of the pressure to commit to one.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I love having so many options and like being able to
Mm-hmm.
jump into anything. Um, but yeah, the decision making is where I get caught up.
It's a hard time being a rambling
But
woman.
yeah.
But having lived in New England, Colorado, Wyoming, and now specifically Vermont, how do you think that blend of wanting to be rooted somewhere, but also that pull to travel and see everything and do so many things, like how have you balanced that over the years and maybe even now in motherhood?
Yeah. I mean, but the West and Vermont, I feel like there's so many overlaps. You were talking about the horse camp, horse farm, and New England is very horsey. Um, Actually, when I was moving from Wyoming back east, I was like, it's actually a pretty easy move because everything that I love about Wyoming, I can still find out here. It looks a little bit different, but in like the grand scheme of things, it's all it's all the same. Um, Mountains, open spaces, water, um, country life, a little closer to the urban stuff here. Um, but I'm still far enough removed that um, I still get my solitude, which I really like.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was telling someone, when people ask about, yeah, what was living in Vermont like when I was there in the Richmond area and on the Canadian border, I'm like, the mountains are just a little shorter. The wide
Mm,
open spaces are just a little less wide open, but otherwise, a lot about the people is the same, like the style of living, like you
mhm.
said, proximity. But yeah, I feel like you find what you look for somewhere if you're open to
Mhm.
looking for it and thinking it's there.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah. But I do still like when I see photos of the Western Mountains or the Bighorn specifically. I'm like, oh, I miss that so much. Um, but yeah, when I did make my move, um, so actually in previous years, I'd like hopped back and forth a little bit. Um, I'd moved from Colorado or Wyoming back east to Vermont actually, and then moved back, then back and back. So I've like ping ponged a little bit. Um, but when I made this last move, I was like, okay, this is it. Like I have to be sure that this is like my decision and be okay knowing that like no matter where I make my home, like I'll always have a second home. Um, and so I like made peace with that being like, I know that when I move back east, there are going to be days where I'm like, man, I miss it out west. Maybe I should move back out there. But like when I go back, like I had this happen multiple times where then I would be in Wyoming and be like, maybe I should move back to Vermont. Like I miss being close to family and things out in New England and blah blah. So I'm just one of those people that like, yeah, my heart is always going to be torn with these two places. Um, but like how lucky to have two places that like I feel so much love for.
Oh, totally.
So,
I know I've always said, like, I feel like I make a home out of everywhere I am.
mm,
And then there's also that longing then when you're not there.
yeah.
So, yeah, definitely for me, balancing, a lot of my family being in New England and a lot of who I am and what shaped me being there.
Mhm.
I know the West is the place for me, and specifically Montana now. Like, maybe it was the season of life I came here in, but this is the place for me, like, without a shadow of a doubt. And going home to Massachusetts a lot of times in past years felt strange because I was happy to be there. I was happy to go home, but it felt really, something felt kind of disjointed because so much of my identity has always been wrapped up in place
Mhm.
and what I'm doing. And I think last year I finally have released some of that identity and just come home to myself so much that last summer, going home to Massachusetts for a little while, I felt like the most at peace I ever have and fully felt again this can be home and Montana can be home and a part of me can be in both places. And that's more than fine,
Yep.
which feels obvious when you get there, but sometimes there's that pull back and forth, like you said.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for me battling that, it's like then I just have to make sure that I get out and visit once a
Yeah.
year. Which I'm hoping to go actually this end of summer, early fall, Labor Day weekend. So if anyone wants to elope at the ranch that we were talking about, I'll be there over Labor Day.
Heck
Um,
yeah. And
so yeah.
Eliza Buskey of Fern Creek Collective and I were just chatting about the Bighorn Mountains and just how magical they are.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like she and I need to talk about that so much more with our love of energy and place and
Yeah.
whatnot. But there is just,
There's
there's
something
something
about
about
it.
those mountains.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And they're not
unlike
even
any
like
I've been.
like they're like it's you hear that about like the Teton, like the Tetons are like majestic, right? Like those are crazy mountains. But the big like what is it about them? Like there it's like a subtle magic.
Yeah, and for me, not so subtle sometimes because the last time I was in them, a friend and I brought horses from here in Montana. We borrowed some guy's horses that I was exercising for, trailered them over to the Bighorns, which was
This was
also
one of this
funny.
was this your first podcast episode about?
Second, yeah,
Okay,
with
yeah,
with
right. Yep.
Annika.
Yep.
And it was funny because I was exercising for this guy, and I still am. One of his horses is going to come over to my house now too. But he is so relaxed. He has a herd of 7 or 8 horses. It kind of depends on the moment that he uses for hunting, and he just
Hmm.
doesn't have time to put like muscle on them so they're ready for
Yep.
hunting season. So I ride for him, and he is just like, nope, you do not tell me you're coming to get them. Just take them whenever, bring them wherever. If you need a vaccination to go across state, just get it, take them. Like, it's fine.
Wow.
So
Yep.
we took these guys for 3 days over to Wyoming and yeah, did this rambling, some through like familiar territory of where the ranch we had worked for. We rode 250,000 acres working for that ranch in those mountains. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, so some was familiar territory. And then we kind of, headed out, saw some new stuff, and then came back home to a familiar trail and headed back over the course of 3 days. And when we were at the top, looking back out before we went down, the last couple miles to the trailer, we just sat for what felt like maybe 15 minutes, like staring out into the mountains where you can't even see a trail from where you are. It looks like there's no one else out there. And that week, it didn't really seem like there was because it was a hailstorm 2 of the days. And the only people we'd seen the last 2 days were 2 cowboys who were riding a Forest Service permit that we used to work and move cattle on. So they were
Yeah.
on the ranch that we used to partner with. And they asked us, they're like, what are you guys doing out here? As it's like actively hailing. And we're like, oh, we're on vacation. We're just riding for the hell of it.
This is just yeah.
Yeah, they asked you, like, are you working for a ranch or the Forest Service or something? We're like, no, this is how we spend our time, just getting beat up in the mountains. Um, but after that, we were looking out, just knowing that we were the only, two of the only few people there, and these magical mountains that we had formed our friendship in, and now had this great experience in, like on our own terms, with our own horses, sort of. And yeah, we both just cried looking out at the mountains, just knowing that a piece of us would always be there.
Yeah. They just draw you in. It's
Yeah.
really special.
So somebody go elope there, because man,
It's so beautiful. I've
yeah.
just had a flashback of like how I used to spend our like, days off from the ranch and like what did we used to do and like what parts of the Bighorns did we explore? And I'm just having these visions of, there would be a handful of us that have the day off, and so you all plan on doing something together because um, it's just more fun that way. But
Mm-hmm.
we would go on what we coined Wyoming safaris. And we would head up to the mountains in someone's car, bring sandwiches and beer. And once we got off the main road onto, one of the Forest Service roads, um, one person would be driving. Maybe someone would stay in the passenger seat, but the rest would hop on the roof and like go for a Wyoming safari and just drive around all these dirt roads. And, you're spotting herds of elk and moose and, yeah, stopping in like a beautiful field of flowers and having a picnic lunch and crack open a couple beers and, um, just enjoy the day. Maybe go hiking or fishing on a river and, oh, take me back.
That's a baller idea for an elopement or an
A Wyoming
engagement shoot too.
safari.
Yep. Heck
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Just throwing this out
Just
there.
throwing that out there. Man, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, too much fun. Yeah, wild times out west.
Oh yeah.
There's some like I don't know, it just maybe it's just the wide open space, but there's such a feeling of freedom and like no way would I ever think of doing something like that here in Vermont. There are too many trees.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, I think it was also part of me, the season of life and just the big transitional period I was in when I first came out here, of leaving a career I'd been in for a long time, like leaving behind a place that had been a huge part of my identity. Like when I chose Vermont after college and was there for 10 years and had been a firefighter for 10 years in there too. Like I was shedding so many layers of identity when I moved west. And a lot of, I think, working on those ranches just cracked me open to the person I wanted to become, the person I'm becoming now. And so maybe that's also why I feel so rooted here, and just that feeling of possibility I had paired with the wide open spaces at that point in life.
how
Either
old were you
way,
when you made it to the your first Wyoming spot? Was it Wyoming initially?
no, it's
Ranch?
Colorado. I think I was 27 or 28.
Hmm.
Yeah, 27 or 28, because I'd been, yeah, a firefighter for like 9.5, just
Yeah,
under 10 years.
right.
And I started when I was 18. Yeah, and I went to Colorado working on a working cattle ranch. And there's just this random point in doing that work as a firefighter where I realized that like shift work just wasn't for me. I loved the job. I wanted to love it and stay in it. But there was a point where I was just like, I can't be a mom someday or even a full human doing this. It's just not for me. So I had my first 20 something crisis and just decided on a whim that I was going to go work on a ranch, and it had to be a working ranch, that first one. So I applied to a random place I found online, had a phone interview, and they hired me with my English writing background.
I was going to ask,
Yeah.
was the camp English
Yeah.
Western? Did you do any like ranch work there?
Nope. Nope.
Yeah.
Just English, pleasure, trail riding, like walk,
Yeah.
trot, canter,
Yep.
half ring stuff and half on a trail. So I had no experience. I'd worked on a dairy farm in Vermont for a little bit.
Hmm.
A boyfriend at the time's family had a dairy farm, so like I'd milked cows, been around cows, kind of understood like herd behavior,
Hmm.
and I was a horse girl, and that was my only
Right.
qualification. Other than I told them like, when they said like, why should we hire you? I was like, well, I scrub toilets all the time for the fire department, so I'm down to do whatever, just give me a role, I'll come out there and work for you. So I was there like a ranch mechanic, ranch hand, doing a lot of tree work, cowboying, tractor work, haying and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was the first one in Colorado, and then there was some bopping around before I got to Wyoming, where I did the backcountry guiding in more of a
Yeah.
hospitality role.
Right.
Um, yeah.
I did in that role, did you, I'm just thinking herding. I've done a little bit of herding cattle and I think it's so much fun. Um, but I think what's more fun, which I got to do out at the ranch when I was working there, um, was herding the herd of horses,
Oh yeah.
right? Like,
Yep.
oh my God, if I could spend every morning going out and wrangling I don't know how many horses they had, 100, 200 horses from out in a big pasture, that that's what I would choose to do every morning if I could.
I'm like welling up like with feeling inside in my chest everywhere because I just know. Yeah.
It's
There's that feeling when you're
such an experience.
oh yeah, and you're saddling, sometimes before the sun, and on the ranches I worked on, or the most recent one, it would be just you usually. Like there were a couple pastures you needed two people. And so there was just this total sense of peace being the only one with your horse, and like the working trot out to go where you needed to
Yes.
be. Just,
Yes.
yeah, just so full of purpose and partnership and peace. And then the excitement and the
And then
rush
it's
and the
then you're like,
movement.
I am a cowboy. Like this, if anyone really wants to know what it feels like to be a cowboy, like you have to go wrangle horses.
Oh,
It
yeah. Yeah.
I love it so much. That's what I miss.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I think about
Like
it a lot.
cows are fun, but
Mm-hmm.
horses are faster.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I'm down for things that sound fast and go fast, and horses definitely fit the bill there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah, what a good memory. And then what's pulling you a lot forward now? Because I know, being rooted in Vermont and still wanting to work out west and wherever folks want to celebrate their love. I know there's a lot pulling you to Vermont and doing more family sessions and things like that and celebrating love closer to home.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, since becoming a mom in the last year, I am definitely feeling more of a pull for sticking around home, um, which is great because it's a beautiful spot to be. Um, but yeah, I feel like, the last couple years I've been very focused on elopements and intimate weddings. And while that has kind of taken off and I'm still, that's the main part of my business, um, I'm now like being drawn to families, and photographing these special milestones and moments with families as, as everybody grows their own families and groups. And um, it's a really, really special time. Um, and even like niching down more into just motherhood. Um, So, maternity, newborn, mommy and me sessions where it's just, yeah, just you and your little one or little ones. Um, Motherhood is hard, but it's so beautiful. And um, yeah, I just would love to be able to help capture those really special moments for everybody else.
Yeah, how does it feel being totally in the mix of it yourself and then working with folks who are also totally in the mix and
Yeah.
just feeling that overwhelming season of love and devotion and preserving moments?
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. I think now that Tucker is in daycare, it's a totally different scene, which is wonderful. For a while there, I was trying to juggle too much and I feel like was never fully present on either side. Like, because he was with me 24/7, I was trying to get as much work done as I could when he was napping, but then when he would wake up, I would still be trying to like make sure that he was happy and playing with him while also like emailing or editing and like never fully present on either side. And now that he's in daycare, I'm like, okay, when he wakes up, I can like spend some serious quality time with him until it's time to drop him off. And I can like get my shit done during the day and be fully focused. And then when I go pick him up or when he comes home, um, that's when I'm like, okay, I'm putting work aside and like we're having family time now. Um, which is so wonderful. And honestly, I almost feel like I needed Tucker to come along into my life for me to be able to do that because over the last several years, I've not been good about setting aside personal time or like closing the door on business for the day and like setting true hours and having a good work-life balance. And he is like making me do that, which is wonderful.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, he did join us on a few calls when we were doing your project, but shout out to Tucker now for doing his own thing a little bit.
Yeah. Making friends, he's having a great time.
Yeah, there's something about that when like people like us are just so in love with what we do and it's just so much a natural extension of the way we live our lives personally anyways. My boyfriend and I were talking about what really is our boundary because is it a certain time of day? Is it like what we're wearing? Like I've said if I'm in PJs or I'm partially clothed, it's not the time to be talking about business. But then, you wake up and sometimes like immediately one of the first thoughts on our mind is, "Hey, did you ever reach out to that person or what were you
Yeah.
thinking about this?" And it's hard to slow that down or put pause on that when you just love it so much and you're all in.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a very hard time putting it away. And like my husband works for himself too. And so we're both have that entrepreneurial mind, I guess, and schedule where, yeah, we both have a very hard time putting work aside. Um, which is it's fine because we love what we do. Um, but yeah, now that we're starting a family, it's like we're definitely going to have to be more intentional with putting work down and being, what I'm telling all my clients to do is be in the moment. And here I am struggling to do it. But
Relatable.
yeah, I
Uh,
talk the talk.
a guest on the most recent ranch I worked on once said to me, because I keep a very active quote list, at least in the past when I was working seasonal jobs,
Hmm.
just I would have a journal, but also a quote list.
Yes.
And and one of the guests said, Amy gives us a lot of advice that she doesn't follow herself.
Thanks.
Thanks. I mean, but that is the nature sometimes when you're guiding, at least, that you kind of got to be a little more stricter with the people who less know what they're doing and are getting on a horse for the first time in 40 years or what have you.
Yeah.
But also kind of just how it goes sometimes where we're too close to home, to manage ourselves sometimes in the way we serve others, and it's so much easier to say this and do this and I'm here to guide you, and then you have to guide yourself and it doesn't always go as seamlessly.
Yeah.
But
That's a good one.
yep.
Are you
What?
still keeping that list or was that just while you were guiding?
Yeah, that was more like I had a fire department list, a ski patrol list, a list from both ranches.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not as active anymore, but I do also keep one for me and my partner
That's fun.
because some funny stuff comes up between you, and it's that one is just for us,
Yeah.
because it's a little more private.
Yeah.
But I like being able to pull that up and just crack up at the stuff we've said while we're like half awake or, yeah, some good stuff comes up.
Good.
But this was so fun getting together outside of a project and just talking horses and love and adventure and life. So I'm so glad we carved out time for this.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks for being here.
Yay!
Yay! The Stories That Form Us is a production of Unbridled Form, a brand strategy and design studio devoted to helping entrepreneurs and creatives tell the story that only they can tell. Through story-led branding, artistic design, and websites that feel like coming home, we help you uncover what's already true and build from there. To learn more, visit unbridledform.com and follow along at Unbridled Form. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next time.